All right, girls. So last class we were talking about Piaget's stages of cognitive development, and we talked about how Piaget really put kids kind of in their own little boxes based on what age they were and what kids should be doing at certain ages. And remember, Piaget studied the human brain and he studied the brains of children to see what their brains cognitively could do at certain ages based on the development of the brain. Now, one theory that really contradicts what Piaget says is Vygotsky's theory on social development. What Vygotsky said, and this is going to bring us into social development and Erik Erikson, is that children really don't learn just based on their brain development. They really learn by social interaction. So Vygotsky said that social interaction plays a fundamental role in the process of cognitive development. Remember Jeannie, if you aren't played with, talked to, loved, cuddled, your brain won't develop, therefore you won't develop as a child. So in contrast to Jean Piaget's understanding of child development, Vygotsky really felt that the way that children learn and need to learn is through social learning, mimicking others, playing with others, and learning from others, which takes us into Erik Erikson. So you researched Erik Erikson and his stages of social development last class, but I'm just going to give you kind of a run through of the different stages. So really, girls, Erik Erikson says that the first crisis everybody has to go through is forming an attachment. So before you can go through all of these other stages of development, babies really need to form a loving attachment with a caregiver. Girls, really right at birth. So Erikson said that infants with loving, responsive parents develop basic trust and attachment, and that will continue to form in future relationships. So at age 1, or essentially by the age of 1, girls, children really need to form an attachment so they can learn to trust others. Sorry about that. Well, we can come here. This is the chart that's in your book. So really, girls, for infants to form a basic attachment really plays a key role in how they will develop socially as humans later on in life. So beginning class today, you watched the crash course on the Harlow monkey experiment and what happens to infants if they don't form that basic attachment at birth. You saw the baby monkeys being taken away from their mothers and they weren't even given a wire mother or a cloth mother. What happens to their development? They become underdeveloped. They become very fearful. They don't know how to parent in the future. And girls, honestly, a lot of those monkeys really started physically declining as well. A lot of them lost their hair, and what they didn't tell you in the crash course, because it's terrible, most of those monkeys who were taken away from their mothers as infants ended up dying. So if caregivers can provide reliable care, affection, children will develop a sense of trust. And then they can really go on to forming these other types of virtues. But it all goes back to attachment and forming trust. So this is the Harlow monkey experiment. I'm not quite sure if you can hear my computer screen with this voiceover, but I will share this with you later. It's an actual video of the Harlow monkey experiment. I'll go ahead and put that link in your notes for today. Okay, so here are your notes that I want you to make sure that you know. You have to know that children have to form an attachment to someone. That doesn't mean a mother, a biological father. It can be two mothers, it can be two fathers, it can be a foster parent, any sort of caregiver is okay. It can be a nurse in a hospital, but as long as babies are able to form an attachment with their body, mind, and emotions, they will develop normally. So the people who really discovered this was Harlow and mainly his wife, girls, but of course they never mentioned her. And they did this through the soft and wire monkey experiment. So securely attached children will not be afraid at daycare. They know their mom and their dad is coming back. They don't have trust issues with their parents. And secure attachments really do tend to predict social competence later on in life. Really think about it, girls. Your caregivers at birth were the first people to really take care of all of your social and emotional and developmental needs. And based on those initial attachments is really how you form social relationships later on in life. Now, that being said, this unit, we're going to focus a lot on parenting styles, especially when we get to adolescence, and essentially what the best type of parenting can be and how to form the best type of relationships with your children. So what psychologists will say is that being an authoritative parent is really the best. You have a reciprocal, responsive relationship. It's built on communication. The parent is accepting of their child, and their focus really is child-centered. Now, that doesn't mean that parents are accepting of whatever their children do. Parents are still demanding. The parent expects the child to behave. They expect the parent or child to be a good human being and a good citizen. So what we're looking at and what you read about in your book is that authoritative parenting is really the best to form those good relationships with children so that they can go on and form good social relationships later on in life. Now, the relationships with children that aren't so great and parenting styles that aren't so great as well. And P.S., we are not looking at our own parents here. We all try our best. It's very hard. Being a parent is the hardest job in the world. But here are the parenting styles that psychologists will say do not turn out well-behaved children and well-rounded adults. So you have your permissive parents. Relationship is indulgent. It's kind of parent-focused. There's no control attempts, and the parent expects little of the child. Rejecting, neglecting parenting is where the parent is just uninvolved in the child's life. And girls, these are obviously not great, but really you would think that the rejecting, neglecting parent is the worst type of parent to be. But what psychology shows is that really the worst type of parent is what we call the authoritarian parent. The parent is rejecting of their child. It's parent-centered. There is no communication between the parents and the child. It's just unidirectional. It's really the parent giving orders. The relationship is controlling. It's power assertive. And the child feels like they don't have a voice in their own life. And what we have found as psychologists is children of these authoritarian parenting styles really cannot function later on in life. They don't have a good attachment, so they have trouble forming relationships later on. Oftentimes, these children have trouble in school. Obesity rates are higher, drug rates are higher. So really, girls, these authoritarian parents or dictator parentships, helicopter parents, really tend to have the worst results, even more so than parents who just neglect their children. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about in childhood social development is gender. So children really do, girls have kind of a good sense of identity and personal worth completely forged by the age of 12. Children of authoritative, not authoritarian parents who have rules, but their parents explain why they have rules and their parents listen. They do tend to have the most self-reliant children. There is a really strong correlation with authoritarian and permissive parents with children who are not self-reliant. So, girls, since people tend to have their self-concept completely forged by 12, this also means that their gender identity really is forged by the age of 12. By the time you hit puberty, you really do have a sense of whether you are male or female. So what I want you to know is we did talk a little bit about when we were talking about genes, how little boys act and how little girls act. But really, girls, we know that society is what truly forms these thoughts on how little girls should play, how little boys should play, what women should do in the workplace, what men should do in the workplace, all that good stuff. We call this the social learning theory or the BEM gender schema theory. It's really that we just learn what is expected or done in our society by those around us, by our parents, by our teachers, by our friends. The U.S. is considered moderately rigid in gender stratification. We have a place for women and a place for men. We're getting better about it, but just to show you how rigid we are, women still make about $7,000 less than males in similar positions to today, which is absolutely ridiculous. So what Sandra Bem said. So Sandra Bem was a psychologist who created her social learning theory around the 70s, right around really when women's lib was happening. And she said that our goal in life really should be to have both female and male qualities. We call this being androgynous. Even though we're girls, we should be assertive. We should be direct. And, even though boys are males, they should be kind, compassionate, good listeners, and have female qualities as well. Sandra Bem created a quiz in the 70s called the Sandra Bem Gender Quiz, and I've put it on Schoology for you today. And it's kind of a crazy quiz, but what your goal is to be is like half male, half female. And she said these people will be the most successful in life because they can get along essentially with everyone. So girls, what I want you to do is take that gender quiz on Schoology today, take a screenshot of your results, and then next class we'll talk about those results and what you got. But make sure to post your results on Schoology. Also, have a great weekend, and I will see you all next class.